Okay, and now we will discuss the quotient rule. So the quotient rule says if functions n and d exist such that f is equal to n over d, then the derivative of f is given by this expression. So n is the numerator, d is the denominator. They are the top and the bottom of the fraction respectively. So the derivative of this rational expression, or the derivative of this fraction, is going to be the denominator multiplied by the derivative of the numerator minus the derivative of the denominator multiplied by the numerator, all divided by the denominator squared. So once again, each function, numerator and denominator, is being multiplied by the derivative of the other function. But instead of being added like in the product rule, they're being subtracted. And this is a quotient, so you divide that by the original denominator squared. All right, so let's take a look. So here we have it. Here's a function, f. This function is defined as x cubed over the sine of x. So that's one function divided by another one instead of multiplied, divided. So we just have to identify our n and our d. Well, n of x, the numerator, is x cubed, and d of x, the denominator, is the sine of x. So we have those two functions, and f is defined as n of x over d of x. All right, so let's take a look. We have the formula here. Well, since I've identified my n and my d, the derivative f prime of x is then equal to the denominator, which is the sine of x. Sine of x multiplied by the derivative of the numerator. Well, the derivative of this by the power rule is going to be 3x squared. I multiply by 3 out front, so I bring the 3 down, n times x to the n minus 1. That's the power rule, the simple power rule. And then it's going to be minus, right? Minus the derivative of the denominator, d prime. The derivative of sine, well, the derivative of sine is cosine of x multiplied by n. N is x to the third power. X to the third power. And this is all yet still divided by d squared, which is the sine of x squared. So the sine of x squared. And there you have it. So this is the derivative. All we want to do is we want to simplify it a little bit. We want to clean it up a little bit. But that is the derivative. What I'm going to do is I'm going to factor again. And looking here, I see that I have a factor of x that I can take out. So I'm going to take out the smallest power of x, which is x squared. X squared. If I take that out of the first term, I'll be left with 3 times the sine of x. If I take that out of the second term, I'll be left with x times the cosine of x, and that's all still divided by the sine squared of x. So this would be the final answer. That would be the derivative, and that is the quotient rule.